The importance of effective communication. We all recognize the frustrating feeling when our attempts to communicate fall short. Whether it's a presentation met with wandering eyes and phone screens, an essay leaving a sense of uncertainty about its impact, or an email that elicits no response or one that misses the point, the result is the same. The information we aim to convey doesn't resonate or achieve our intended outcome. Explaining ourselves brilliantly is a challenging endeavor, one that should never be taken for granted. There's always room for improvement, as explanation is more of an art than a science. Failing to pay attention to the nuances of explanation can have significant consequences. Everyday life presents examples of individuals with valuable insights who struggle to articulate them effectively, be it politicians whose policy announcements leave us confused, emails where crucial details are buried in excessive text, or job applications lacking clear evidence to support the applicant's claims. Poor explanation is a common experience. Effective explanation is a powerful blend of clarity of purpose, clarity of language, and essential information, all tailored to the specific audience. Those who excel at explanation stand out. On a practical level, it facilitates getting things done and saves valuable time for everyone involved. More fundamentally, skillful explanation can transform how you interact with others and how you present yourself. A well-crafted explanation can make all the difference, highlighting its importance. Over years of experience, a system has been developed to identify, organize, and communicate information in a clear, concise, and comprehensible manner. This system is adaptable to various situations, from extensive preparation for formal presentations or exams to brief, impromptu conversations. This system has been fundamental to professional success and remains in constant use. This resource aims to share this system, hoping it will prove equally beneficial. If you've ever felt unsure about where to begin with explaining something, this material is designed to provide helpful processes. By following the outline system step by step, you can build confidence and achieve your desired results. This exploration of explanation is divided into several key areas. The anatomy of a good explanation. Understanding the fundamental criteria that define an effective explanation. Knowing your audience. Recognizing the importance of tailoring your explanation to those you are addressing. The 7-step explanation. A detailed process for constructing comprehensive and impactful explanations. 7-step dynamic explanation. Adapting the core principles for situations requiring spontaneous and adaptable communication. Quick explanations, verbal and written. Strategies for concise and effective communication in everyday scenarios. Let's begin by examining the foundational elements of what constitutes a good explanation. The anatomy of a good explanation. 10 key attributes. There are 10 crucial attributes that contribute to an effective explanation. Keeping these in mind serves as a guide towards better communication, and with practice, you can learn to instinctively assess them. The detailed system discussed later addresses the practical aspects of explanation, while these attributes form the underlying principles. Most difficulties in conveying a message stem from a failure to adequately address these elements. In its essence, the goal of explaining is twofold: to provide all the necessary information that someone needs or that you wish to share with them. To present that information in a way that maximizes its chances of being understood and retained. Let's delve into each of these 10 essential attributes. Simplicity. Simplicity is paramount to understanding. Using short words and short sentences presents the fewest obstacles to comprehension for the listener or reader. This principle highlights that unnecessary complexity in language can directly hinder understanding. Previously, overcomplication might have been seen as a mere stylistic preference, but it should be recognized as a direct threat to effective communication. Including non-essential details, such as the name of a minor figure or interesting, but non-critical statistics, can obscure the core message. These unnecessary elements act as obstacles to understanding, actively reducing the likelihood of successful explanation. A strong commitment to simplicity involves eliminating superfluous adjectives, obscure vocabulary, unnecessary detail, and lengthy sentences. This ambition is shared by initiatives like the Plain Language Bill, which mandates government communications to be clear, concise, well-organized, and audience-appropriate. Communicating in a way that is easily understood is crucial for public engagement, trust in institutions, and full participation in society. Therefore, always ask, Is this the simplest way I can say this? Essential detail. While striving for simplicity in language, it's crucial not to compromise on essential detail. Simplicity in this context refers to the clarity of language, not the avoidance of complex subjects or necessary information. Detail is the currency of explanation, providing the distilled facts that form the core of what we aim to communicate. Identifying and clearly explaining essential detail is the very purpose of any explanation. Often, when an explanation falters, it's because insufficient time has been dedicated to determining what constitutes essential detail and then ensuring it is given prominence and its importance is articulated. This prioritization of essential detail is vital, whether it's a long-term process like writing a book or a quick mental exercise before a brief conversation. However, detail for its own sake is detrimental. It doesn't enhance credibility and can actually detract from the main points. Including excessive interesting but non-essential detail follows the law of diminishing returns, making it harder for the crucial information to be absorbed. The fundamental challenge in explanation is the ability to distinguish essential detail from everything else. Successfully doing so ensures that the core message is not obscured. Whether you're a tradesperson outlining necessary work, a manager explaining organizational changes, or a coach discussing tactical adjustments, the listeners want to hear what truly matters. Relevant and helpful detail naturally commands attention. The process of identifying essential information will be explored further in the 7-step explanation section. Always ask, what detail is essential to this explanation? Essential information may also include necessary complexities. Complexity. The more intricate a subject, the greater the challenge to provide an effective explanation. Mishandling complexities can lead to confusion, overwhelm the audience, or even cause offense or feelings of being ignored. The temptation to avoid complexity in the pursuit of simplicity is strong, but true simplicity in explanation doesn't mean ignoring the essential complexities of the subject matter. Most subjects inherently involve complexity, and a thorough explanation must address these nuances. Understanding the complexities leads to more accurate assessment, which in turn results in better explanation. Therefore, the best explanations always incorporate the essential complexities. Always ask yourself, are there elements of this subject I don't understand? A superior explanation will present essential details and essential complexities using the simplest possible language. This clarity in language contributes to the next crucial attribute, efficiency. Efficiency. In an age of constant digital stimulation, the ability to maintain undivided attention is a subject of ongoing discussion. However, it's undeniable that we can still focus for extended periods when we are genuinely engaged. The success of streaming services, video platforms, and podcast producers demonstrates our capacity for sustained attention. Efficiency in explanation acknowledges the value of the audience's time. A report that contains detail but lacks essential detail is an inefficient way for the audience to gain useful information. Efficiency means giving people more value in return for their time. The concept of efficiency can be illustrated by the idea that there's almost always unnecessary space or redundancy in an explanation. News reporters are constantly reminded to be concise, as space and time are limited. While operating within these constraints, it's crucial to avoid rushing, cramming in too much information, or discarding valuable content. Often, reducing the number of words can actually enhance clarity and the quality of information conveyed. The process of tightening an explanation involves multiple reviews to identify and remove non-essential words, information, or sentences that don't serve a clear purpose. Being efficient not only improves clarity, but also maximizes the available space to deliver the explanation effectively. Always ask yourself, is this the most succinct way I can say this? Efficiency is closely linked to the next attribute, precision, which aims to avoid confusion and ambiguity. Precision. Good communication hinges on choosing the right words to convey your meaning exactly. While this might seem self-evident, one of the most common pitfalls in explanation is failing to say precisely what you intend. Achieving precision is a two-part process, the first being to thoroughly understand what you want to communicate. Vague or lengthy sentences often reflect undisciplined thinking. Ineffective explanations often arise from a lack of clarity regarding the overall message and the specific purpose of each component. Even with a clear understanding of the message and the role of each part, it's still essential to meticulously choose words that accurately convey the intended meaning. Continuously questioning whether your words are truly conveying your intended message and revising them until they do is crucial for precision. Inspiration for achieving precision can come from unexpected places, such as the concept of being spare in artistic expression where potent content requires less ornamentation. Similarly, in explanation, relevant and helpful information allows for more concise language. The idea that emotional writing is only powerful when it is punishingly precise underscores the importance of deliberate word choice. Precision demands selecting just the right words and eliminating anything that might create distraction. While communication can occur without absolute precision, it is essential for high-impact explanation. Always ask yourself, am I saying exactly what I want to communicate? After ensuring simplicity, essential detail, complexity, efficiency, and precision, the next crucial step is to ensure the explanation's relevance to the audience. Context. Once the core elements of the explanation are clear and precise, it's vital to explain why this information matters to the people you are addressing. Providing context helps the audience understand the significance and relevance of what is being communicated. Without context, even a well-structured and clearly articulated explanation might fail to resonate because the audience doesn't understand its importance or implications for them. Therefore, always ask yourself, why does this matter to the people I'm addressing? By addressing this question, you can ensure that your explanation is not just understood, but also valued and acted upon. No distractions. One of the major threats to an otherwise effective explanation comes from distractions created by our own words and actions. A good explanation requires the audience to remain focused on the subject at hand, and we are all capable of inadvertently including elements that disrupt this focus. These distractions can take many forms, such as unexplained references, jargon, or irrelevant anecdotes. It's crucial to either explain any reference or eliminate it entirely, recognizing that even a brief explanation of a reference consumes time and space. Leaving in a reference that can confuse or distract is not an option. A useful rule is to explain a reference before you use it. For partially known words, using phrases like, "as some of you may know," can acknowledge existing knowledge while still informing those who need the explanation. Resisting the temptation to use clever vocabulary or make obscure references to appear knowledgeable is essential, as these will distract from the core message. Seeking feedback on explanations can help identify distracting elements that the creator might overlook. If the audience loses focus in one part of the explanation, they might miss subsequent important information. Just as a weak link can break a chain, a distracting element can undermine the entire explanation. Every decision about what to include should be guided by the core purpose of the explanation. Whether it's an academic essay, a work briefing, or a fundraising event, anything that doesn't directly contribute to the intended outcome should be excluded. Sometimes, what the audience needs is not exhaustive detail, but rather an enjoyable, relevant, and easy-to-understand overview. The key is to prioritize crystal clear explanation, high-value information, sharp analysis, and a commitment to truthfulness, delivered authentically and efficiently. Therefore, diligently looking for and eliminating potential distractions is crucial for a successful explanation. Engaging. An explanation, even if clear and precise, needs to capture and hold the audience's attention. Engaging explanations are more likely to be understood and remembered. This involves considering how to present the information in a way that resonates with the audience and maintains their interest. Techniques such as storytelling, vivid examples, and a dynamic delivery can contribute to engagement. The goal is to avoid the explanation feeling like a dry recitation of facts, and instead create a connection with the audience. Thinking about how the audience prefers to receive information and making the information feel personal can enhance engagement. Useful. A good explanation should provide value to the audience. It should answer their questions, provide insights, or enable them to take action. If the audience perceives the explanation as useful and relevant to their needs, they are more likely to pay attention and retain the information. Clearly articulating the utility of the information from the outset can motivate the audience to engage with the explanation. Clarity of purpose. Underlying every effective explanation is a clear understanding of what you aim to achieve. Before constructing an explanation, it's essential to define your purpose. What do you want the audience to know, understand, or do as a result of your explanation? This clarity of purpose guides the selection of information, the structure of the explanation, and the language used. Regularly revisiting your purpose throughout the explanation process ensures that you remain focused and that every element contributes to achieving your intended outcome. These 10 attributes work in concert to create a powerful and effective explanation. While some, like simplicity, efficiency, and precision, appear to complement each other, others, like including essential detail and complexity while maintaining simplicity and efficiency, present a balance to strike. This balancing act, described as the balance of compression and comprehensiveness, is a key challenge in crafting good explanations. Finding this balance while also considering the audience and their preferred way of receiving information is crucial. While it might seem like a lot to consider, a systematic approach can guide you from feeling overwhelmed to explaining yourself brilliantly. Know your audience. Understanding your audience is fundamental to crafting an effective explanation. Tailoring your communication to their needs, knowledge level, and preferences significantly increases the likelihood of your message being understood and well received. Consider the following aspects of your audience: their existing knowledge. Assess what your audience already knows about the subject. Avoid unnecessary background information while ensuring you don't assume knowledge they lack. Their needs and interests. What are they hoping to gain from your explanation? What aspects of the topic are most relevant to them? Tailor your content to address their specific needs and interests to maintain their engagement. Their preferred communication style. How do they best receive information? Do they prefer visual aids, detailed data, or concise summaries? Adapt your delivery and materials to their preferred style. Their expectations. What are they expecting from your explanation? Are they looking for a brief overview or an in-depth analysis? Managing their expectations from the outset is important. Why it matters to them. Explicitly connect your explanation to their lives, work, or interests. Make the relevance clear to motivate them to pay attention and understand. By carefully considering your audience, you can make informed decisions about the level of detail to include, the language to use, the examples to provide, and the overall structure of your explanation. This audience-centric approach is key to making your communication clear, engaging, and impactful. 7-step explanation, a detailed process. For scenarios requiring a detailed explanation, such as essays, reports, presentations, or work briefings, a structured 7-step process can be invaluable. This systematic approach helps to organize your thoughts, ensure comprehensive coverage of the subject, and ultimately deliver a clear and impactful message. The 7 steps are: setup, defining your purpose and the scope of your explanation. Find the information, gathering all relevant information on the subject. Distill the information, identifying and extracting the essential details from the collected information. Organize the information, structuring the distilled information in a logical and coherent manner. Link the information, crafting the explanation by connecting the organized elements with clear and engaging language. Tighten, refining the explanation by removing unnecessary words, complexities, and potential distractions. Delivery, preparing and executing the presentation of the explanation in a clear, confident, and engaging manner. Let's examine each step in detail. Step 1. Setup. The initial step involves clearly defining the context and objectives of your explanation. Assume you have a scenario where a detailed explanation is required, such as a written assignment or a formal presentation. Before diving into the content, it's crucial to establish a clear understanding of what you aim to achieve. Ask yourself, what is the specific topic I need to explain? Define the subject matter precisely to provide a clear focus for your information gathering. What is my purpose in explaining this? What do you want the audience to understand or take away from your explanation? Having a clear purpose will guide your selection of information and your overall approach. Who is my audience? As discussed earlier, understanding your audience is crucial for tailoring your explanation effectively. What is the format of my explanation? Will it be written essay, report, email, or verbal presentation, speech, conversation? The format will influence your approach to structuring and delivering the information. What are the key constraints, for example, time limit, word count? Understanding any limitations will help you manage the scope and depth of your explanation. By clearly answering these questions, you lay a solid foundation for the subsequent steps of the explanation process. Step 2. Find the information. Once you have a clear setup, the next step is to gather all the information relevant to your topic. This stage can sometimes feel overwhelming, regardless of your initial familiarity with the subject. Common initial thoughts might include, where do I even begin? Can I truly become knowledgeable enough? Can I convey all of this effectively? Is this too difficult to explain? Do I have enough time? It's helpful to approach this stage with a sense of systematic exploration, rather than feeling daunted by the sheer volume of potential information. It can be useful to start by creating an info dump, a single document where you can deposit anything that seems potentially relevant. Don't worry about organization or relevance at this stage. The goal is to capture as much information as possible. If you have the time, it's generally better to err on the side of collecting too much information initially, as you can always delete irrelevant material later. Begin by asking yourself, where and how should I look for information? Before you start gathering, have a general direction in mind. Even if you don't know the subject well, consider the types of resources that might be helpful. For example, academic articles, news reports, official documents, expert interviews. Which parts of the subject do I want to explain? Make a preliminary list of key areas or aspects of the topic you think you'll need to cover. Don't worry if this list isn't perfect at this stage. It's a starting point that can be refined as you learn more. Then, the information gathering begins. Keep the following principles in mind as you assemble your material. Consider your sources. Be critical of the information you find. Ask yourself, what is the origin of this information? Is it a reliable and trustworthy source? Is there any potential bias? Trust your instincts and question information that seems doubtful. Seek multiple perspectives. Look for information from various viewpoints to gain a well-rounded understanding of the subject. Don't be afraid to ask for help. If you're unsure about the accuracy or relevance of information, or if you're struggling to find what you need, don't hesitate to seek guidance from those with more expertise, for example, teachers, colleagues, specialists. It's rare that people object to being asked for their expertise when approached respectfully. Keep track of your findings. As you gather information, meticulously document your findings. If you're copying and pasting, always label the origin and the individual or organization responsible, and include a link if applicable. Your questions list. While gathering information, also keep in mind the questions that you and your audience might have about the subject. Create and maintain a questions list. What do you think people won't understand? Anticipate potential areas of confusion for your audience and actively seek information that can address these points. Regularly reviewing this list towards the end of your explanation process is crucial to ensure you've answered as many anticipated questions as possible. The more questions you answer, the more engaged and trusting your audience will be. What don't you understand? Be honest with yourself about any gaps in your own understanding. Pretending to understand something you don't will likely lead to problems later in the explanation process. Embracing your lack of understanding and actively seeking clarification is essential for building a solid foundation for your explanation. Don't hesitate to ask for clarification or spend extra time on areas where your understanding is weak. What are the key subject areas you think you need to cover? This list, which you started earlier, will help ensure you address all the essential aspects of your topic. Regularly review this list and check whether you have sufficient information for each point. If not, develop a plan to acquire the necessary information. By the end of this step, you should have a clear brief, your setup, and your raw materials, the collected information, and your questions list. Don't be concerned if the volume of information seems large. The next step will focus on making it manageable. Step 3. Distill the information. With a wealth of information gathered, the crucial next step is to extract the essential details. This involves sifting through everything you've collected and identifying the core pieces of information that are directly relevant to your purpose. It's not about determining if information is interesting, but rather if it is relevant and essential to achieving your explanatory goals. The first sweep. Begin assessing your information systematically. Go through it line by line, paragraph by paragraph, and ask yourself, is this relevant to my purpose? If the answer is no, immediately move that information to a separate location, either at the end of your document or in a new document. This helps to declutter your primary working document and keeps your focus on the essential material. For example, if you're explaining a historical event, detailed background information that doesn't directly contribute to understanding the key causes, events, or consequences might be deemed non-essential for your specific purpose. Extract the core facts and arguments, simplifying them to their most basic form. You'll end up with a long list of facts, phrases, arguments, quotes, statistics, graphics, and theories, the elements that you believe hold value for your explanation in their simplest form. If you're unsure whether a piece of information is essential and you can't easily get advice, it's generally better to leave it in for now. The immediate priority is to discard information you are certain won't be helpful. It's easy to get sidetracked by interesting but ultimately irrelevant details, leading to explanations that feel aimless or disconnected from the core message. Becoming skilled at distinguishing essential from non-essential information is key to clear communication. As you distill, your document will become progressively shorter. This process of sifting and refining helps you take control of a potentially overwhelming amount of information and build confidence in your understanding of the subject. Make a list of the main strands of the subject. Once you've done your initial sweep, identify the main themes or strands that emerge from your distilled information. There's no fixed number of strands. Create a list of the key areas that come to mind and give each a short, descriptive heading. The initial order of these strands isn't critical, and the list can evolve as you continue your work. For example, if you're explaining the impact of a new technology, your strands might include technical aspects, economic implications, social effects, and potential challenges. To these core strands, add two more temporary categories. Strand for high impact. This is for information that is particularly compelling, surprising, or insightful, and could be used effectively at the beginning or end of your explanation to grab attention or leave a lasting impression. Strand for information we're not sure of. If you have distilled elements that you suspect might be important, but you're not yet sure how they fit into your overall explanation, place them in this strand for later consideration. At this stage, you should have a list of clearly labeled strands. Before placing your distilled information into these strands, the next crucial step is to think about the narrative of your explanation. Crafting your narrative. Beyond having a clear purpose, it's equally important to have a clear story for your explanation. What journey do you want to take your audience on? Where will you begin? What will you promise them in terms of understanding or insight? You know the desired destination, your purpose, but what route will you take to get there? Try to articulate your story in a concise way. A useful exercise is to ask yourself, what is this explanation in 5 words? While 5 words might be overly restrictive, the principle is to have a very clear and succinct idea of the core narrative you want to convey. Consider different storytelling techniques. Chronological, presenting information in the order it occurred. Problem solution, identifying a problem and then explaining the solution. Cause and effect, explaining the reasons behind certain outcomes. Comparison, examining similarities and differences between different elements. Look for patterns in how others explain complex topics clearly and effectively. Ask yourself, what story are they telling and how are they telling it? If you're struggling to define your narrative, sometimes it's helpful to write the first sentence of your explanation. This can provide a starting point and help clarify the direction you want to take. Examples of opening sentences that establish the narrative include, "This is a story of," "This lecture will explain how," "Today I'm going to take you through," "Here are 10 minutes on." Having this clear narrative in your mind and written down is beneficial and can overlap with your stated purpose. For example, if your purpose is to explain the connection between heat waves and climate change, your story might be how the extreme conditions in one specific location reveal broader truths about the changing climate. Step 4. Organize the information. With your distilled information and your overarching narrative in mind, the next step is to organize your elements into your identified strands. Create a new document with your strand headings, including the high impact and unsure strands. Open the document containing your distilled information and begin moving each element into the strand where you feel it best fits the narrative. Since your choice of strands was informed by the distillation process, most of your information should find a suitable home. If you encounter elements that don't seem to fit neatly into any of your core strands but still feel important, place them in the information we're not sure of strand. Also, identify any elements that are particularly clear, relevant, and impactful and consider placing them in the strand for high impact. At this stage, the specific order of elements within each strand is not critical. For the purpose of this detailed explanation process, we'll assume you are going to write down your explanation. This can be easily adapted for spoken explanations later. While there might be specific instances, for example, a high-stakes speech where writing a full script is advisable to ensure absolute command over your wording, for most situations, planning what you want to say and then speaking around key elements is more effective for clarity and connection with your audience. Even when using notes, the goal is to speak naturally and purposefully, rather than simply reading a script. As you organize your information, continue to ask yourself the key questions that underpin effective explanation. This systematic reinforcement of these principles will help solidify them in your approach. Step 5. Link the information. This step involves transforming your organized strands and elements into a coherent and engaging explanation. Begin writing, focusing on connecting the elements within each strand, and then linking the strands together in a logical flow that supports your overall narrative. If you've done the previous steps thoroughly, the writing process can often feel like stitching everything together. A significant portion of the groundwork has been laid, making the actual writing more manageable. However, it's normal if the writing doesn't flow immediately. If you get stuck, try starting a section with a different element or identifying the underlying reason for the block. Are you unclear on what you want to say or how to express it? Practical issues might also arise, such as needing to discard or add elements, or adjusting the order of your strands. Expect some movement and refinement of your initial structure. Techniques for linking and enhancing your explanation. Surfacing the structure. Explicitly signal the different sections or parts of your explanation to your audience. This helps them follow your logic and see the overall framework. Techniques include clearly stating how many points you will cover or using transitional phrases to introduce new sections. Short sentences. Especially for verbal explanations, aim for short, concise sentences that are easier for the audience to process and for you to deliver smoothly. A rule of thumb is to aim for sentences of no more than 15 words in spoken explanations. The power of and in verbal explanations, using and can create a sense of momentum and connection between ideas, building the explanation block by block and leading towards a clear conclusion. Does this sound like me? Strive for a tone that is authentic and reflects your natural speaking style, even in written explanations. The goal is to communicate with precision and accuracy while still sounding like yourself. Bring things together. Use concluding phrases like all of which to signal that what you are about to say is the result of the preceding information. This reinforces the connections between different parts of your explanation. Summarize key points. At the end of a section or your entire explanation, reiterate the main points to emphasize key takeaways and ensure the audience understands the core message. This is not about introducing new information, but reinforcing what has already been presented. Craft strong first and last sentences. Pay particular attention to how you begin and end your explanation or sections. These are crucial moments for grabbing attention, setting the stage, and leaving a lasting impression. These sentences often require multiple revisions to get just right. Develop high-impact phrases. Create concise and memorable phrases that encapsulate key ideas or the overall message of your explanation. This often involves significant effort to boil down complex concepts into easily digestible and impactful language. These phrases can be incredibly powerful tools for conveying your message quickly and effectively. As you write, continually review your work to ensure it aligns with your intended narrative and effectively links the various pieces of information. Quick check. Before moving to the next step, take a moment to review your first draft. Are you happy that you've stuck to your story structure? Have you used different techniques to provide emphasis and momentum? Does it sound like you? Reaching this stage with a tangible draft is a significant accomplishment and provides a boost of energy for the final stages of refinement. Step 6. Tighten. This is the stage where a good explanation can become exceptional. It's about refining your draft sentence by sentence, and even being prepared to eliminate entire sections if they don't effectively contribute to your purpose. This process, like practicing a musical piece, requires meticulous attention to detail to create a coherent and polished final product. Over time, much of this tightening will become automatic as you develop a keen eye for identifying areas for improvement. As you begin tightening, consider the following. Are there any obstacles to understanding? Go back to the principle of simplicity. Identify and eliminate anything that might hinder comprehension. Which personal or place names are truly necessary? Often, excessive names add unnecessary complexity. Are the dates you've included essential, or is a broader time frame sufficient? Are all the statistics you've included directly relevant to your point? Avoid using multiple statistics to make the same point or including data that isn't crucial. More broadly, have you included any information that is not essential to your explanation? Experiment with removing it to see if it improves clarity. Is there unnecessary complication? Look for phrases that can be made shorter and simpler. Could any sentences be made shorter without losing content and meaning? Constantly look for words or phrases that are redundant or can be abbreviated without impacting the message. Numerous common redundancies in the English language can weigh down your writing with unnecessary words. Is there anything that is unexplained and could distract? Identify any references, jargon, or assumptions that might not be understood by your audience and either explain them clearly or remove them. Does what you're showing, if applicable, match what you're saying? Ensure a clear synchronization between any visual aids and your spoken or written words, avoiding any potential distractions or inconsistencies. Get a second opinion. If possible, seek feedback from someone else on your explanation. A fresh pair of eyes can often identify areas for improvement in terms of nuance, clarity, and accuracy that you might have overlooked, even if you are an expert on the subject. They can also help you identify whether you've assumed too much prior knowledge on the part of your audience. Quick check. After tightening your explanation, are you satisfied you've tightened this as far as it can go? Is there anyone you'd like to show it to for feedback? By diligently tightening your explanation, you significantly enhance its clarity, efficiency, and overall impact. Step 7. Delivery. While the substance of your explanation is crucial, the way you deliver it is equally important in determining whether your message truly resonates. Even a perfectly crafted explanation can fall flat if the delivery is rushed, monotonous, or disengaging. This step focuses on ensuring that your explanation is not only accurate and to the point, but also something that your audience will want to consume. Refining your presentation. Begin by reading your explanation aloud at a slow to medium pace. This allows you to identify any awkward phrasing, abrupt transitions, or areas where the flow feels unnatural. As you read, ask yourself, does this sound like me? Make adjustments so that the words feel natural and reflect your own voice. Does each sentence logically move on to the next? Smooth out any disjointed transitions by adjusting the end of the preceding sentence or the beginning of the following one. Does the rhythm and flow of the sentences feel right? Pinpoint any words or phrases that disrupt the natural flow and consider alternatives. Script, bullet points, or memorization. Consider the best approach for presenting your explanation. Staying on script. For high-stakes presentations or formal speeches, having a full script can ensure precision and control over your language and timing. However, reading word for word can sound unnatural and hinder your ability to connect with the audience unless you use a teleprompter effectively. If you must read a script, optimize it for readability with a large font, ample line spacing, and clear headers to help you navigate it easily. Bullet points. Using bullet points containing only the most important trigger words can provide a framework for your explanation, while allowing for a more natural and conversational delivery. This approach encourages you to engage with the audience rather than being tied to a script. Practice speaking fluently around your bullet points, gradually reducing your reliance on them. Key phrases will become more familiar, allowing for a balance of precision and spontaneity. Memorizing. While memorizing an entire script is generally not recommended, memorizing key bullet points and the associated information can lead to a very convincing and engaging delivery. However, it requires significant effort, so ensure there's a strong reason to choose this method over using bullet points. Pace and tone. Experiment with different paces and tones to maintain audience interest and emphasize key points. Varying your delivery can prevent monotony and help highlight the most important information. Consider speeding up through less critical sections and slowing down for emphasis on key facts or arguments. Emphasis techniques. Use techniques like pauses, intonation, and changes in pace to highlight the most important parts of your explanation. This helps direct the audience's attention and reinforces your key messages. Script marking techniques. If you are using a script, consider marking it up with symbols to remind yourself of desired pacing, pauses, and emphasis. You can also mark points where it's crucial to breathe or continue speaking without pausing. Underlining words for emphasis can also be helpful. These markings serve as visual cues during your delivery. Body language. Be mindful of your body language, including eye contact, posture, and gestures. Natural and purposeful gestures can enhance your delivery and help emphasize key points, but avoid distracting or repetitive movements. The importance of rehearsal. Rehearsal is crucial for building confidence and ensuring a smooth and effective delivery. Practice each section of your explanation and then run through the entire thing multiple times. Pay particular attention to any parts you feel less confident about. Through sufficient rehearsal, your explanation will feel clearer, more efficient, and more natural to deliver. Quick check. Before your final delivery, is there any aspect of the explanation and how you're going to deliver it that you're still not sure of? Have you rehearsed what you're aiming to do? Completing these 7 steps thoroughly prepares you to deliver a great explanation. This detailed process emphasizes the fundamental impact that careful consideration of communication can have. Once you become aware of elements that hinder your ability to be heard effectively, it becomes imperative to address them. 7-step dynamic explanation. In situations demanding spontaneity and adaptability, such as answering questions in an interview or during a live broadcast, a modified version of the 7 steps is required. This dynamic explanation process focuses on being able to access and articulate information clearly and persuasively under pressure. The 7 steps for dynamic explanation are: setup. Similar to the first process, define the context and your objectives. Find the information. Gather relevant information beforehand. Distill the information. Identify the essential details. Organize the information. Structure the distilled information into concise, memorable strands, limiting yourself to around 5 key pieces of information per strand. Group related strands together for easier recall. Verbalize. Practice speaking about each strand clearly and concisely without relying on notes. Focus on articulating the primary point of each strand fluently. Memorize. Commit the key strands and their core information to memory using techniques like chunking, treating each strand as a single unit of information. Practice recalling individual strands, then pairs of related strands, and finally navigating between different strands in a random order. For more complex scenarios, consider advanced memory techniques. Questions. Anticipate potential questions you might be asked and mentally prepare how your memorized strands can be used to answer them effectively. In the moment, assess the specific information required and draw upon your memorized knowledge to provide a clear and concise response. If you don't know the answer, acknowledge this honestly and offer what relevant information you do have. This dynamic approach prioritizes mental preparation and the ability to access and articulate information readily, even when faced with unexpected questions. The emphasis is on verbal fluency and confident recall, making notes largely unnecessary and potentially distracting in the moment of dynamic interaction. Quick explanations. Not every situation requires the full 7-step explanation process. Many everyday scenarios call for concise and efficient communication, both verbally and in writing. Quick verbal explanations. Before any non-social conversation, take a moment to consider: which subjects do I want to cover? Which key information do I need to convey? Which questions do I need to ask? Even this brief preparation can significantly improve the productivity and clarity of your conversations, saving time and preventing misunderstandings later. If needed, use simple chunking techniques to quickly memorize key points. Short written explanations, emails, and messages. In today's information-saturated environment, short written communication like emails and messages requires a strategic approach to cut through the noise and ensure your message is received and understood. Assume that your recipient might not read your message fully or even at all, and that their approach will be primarily functional. When writing short messages, prioritize the following. Explain the message in the first sentence. Clearly state the purpose of your email or message immediately. Is your message as short as possible? Be concise and eliminate any unnecessary words or information. Is it formatted to be skimmable? Use short paragraphs, bullet points, headers, and bold text to make it easy for the reader to quickly find the key information. However, use formatting with restraint. Is it easy to respond to? If you need a response or action, make it clear what you need and provide all necessary information in one place. Have you answered the reader's questions? Anticipate what the reader might want to know and address those points proactively. Remember that no one cares about my email as much as I do. Approach short written communication with the understanding that you are competing for the recipient's attention and time. Aim to make your message a useful and efficient exchange of information, avoiding the unkind tax of a long, rambling email. Conclusion: the practiced art of explanation. Explanation is a multifaceted and evolving art that requires continuous practice and adaptation. While some aspects of good explanation may become habitual over time, the rigor of working through structured processes and checklists remains essential for ensuring clarity, coherence, and impact. Like cleaning a window, paying attention to how we communicate allows us and others to see with greater clarity. Once you experience the benefits of effective explanation, there's no turning back.